So apparently me just listing off all the positives in one video and all the negatives in another video for Football Manager 26 isn't enough. That doesn't count as enough of a review, and you want my actual thoughts on FM26. So here goes. I've not written a script. I'm not reading off my teleprompter. I'm not really going to edit this video. I'm just going to have a little bit of a chat with you for a few minutes about my initial thoughts and reaction to FM26. And it is really important to emphasize these are my initial thoughts based on what we've played so far of the FM26 beta. And I know that I Hate Football Manager 26 Brigade are going to be like, stop using the beta as an excuse, shill. Oh, I'm fed up. I hadn't heard the word shill until I became a YouTuber. I still don't think I am one, but, you know, I am hearing it a lot. But it is a fair point, and I think we've maybe been a little bit spoiled as Football Manager players over the last 4 or 5 years. In the last couple of betas that we've had haven't really been betas. They've been early access to the full version of the game, and they even changed what they were calling it and started calling it the early access or the advanced access or whatever terminology they were using, and stopped calling it a beta. I am old enough to remember when it very much was a beta. I am old enough to remember Championship Manager 4, which I feel like I've spoken about a lot over the last year to 18 months or so. But I have been down this road before of Football Manager. Admittedly, they delayed the game. It came out in like March, April time, and then when it came out, it was an absolute mess. Obviously, this time we've gone even further than that because it's been delayed, then cancelled, and then come out. And a lot of people feel like it's an absolute mess. I'm not one of those people. I've probably titled this video something along the lines of my actual thoughts about FM26, and you're not going to like them. And if you are just here because you're expecting, oh, he's finally going to tell the truth and bash FM26, I'm not, because I'm having quite a nice time. I'm not completely blind to the faults of the game. And certainly it's taken me a little bit of time to get to the point where I am happy with it. I'd never hated it, but at the same time, I saw there were problems with it when I first got access to the alpha. As you all know, I had early access on the alpha because I made videos on it. So you've all seen those now. I actually ended up, when we talked about this a little bit on stream the other night, I sent a message to my editor, Topher, when I first got access to the alpha, basically saying we both need to go and look for other jobs because FM26 was going to be a disaster. And he basically talked me down off a ledge. And, you know, give it time. It'll be fine. You might get used to it. And to be fair, I did get used to it. And yeah, by the time the alpha videos were recorded, I'd probably played 10 to 15 hours of the game and had got to the point where I knew my way around enough to make the videos. I mean, you'll still see from the streams and the videos that I'm making at the moment, I'm certainly not an expert at navigating the game yet. That is going to take a while. There were plenty of screens on FM24 that I didn't know existed until people got very upset that they were missing. So don't expect me to know where everything is in 26. There'll probably be lots of elements of the game that I never find because I'm not that bothered about looking for it. But I did get some time to get used to it before I was even able to make my opinions on it public. So by the time I made my alpha videos, I'd come around to the idea that it was a pretty good game hidden behind a pretty clunky and buggy user interface. Now, one of the questions we've been asked is, why didn't you warn us when you made the alpha videos that the user interface, that the game was buggy? I mean, there's two things to respond to that. One, if I'd have got in there and slated the alpha, they wouldn't have let me release the video. So there's that. It literally would have been impossible to do what you are asking me to do. But I also didn't want to do it because it wasn't even the beta. I didn't make those videos on the version of the game that anyone else was ever going to be able to play. So based on, this wasn't my first time getting access to the alpha. I've played on some buggy alphas before. And made content on stuff that has still got bugs, and, you know, with the heads up of steer clear of this bit of the game, it doesn't quite work yet, etc., etc. But it'll work by the time the beta comes out, so don't worry about it. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm willing to work together to show the game off on the understanding that stuff is going to be fixed by the time the beta comes out, and certainly by the time the full game comes out. And like I say, I was pretty happy with the beta. And I assumed some of the little bugs and niggles that I had with it would probably be fixed by the time the beta came out. So releasing an alpha video that was like, oh, it's a buggy mess, don't play it, would have been ridiculous, because by the time you got it, you know, to the best of my knowledge, every time I've ever done this in the past, the issues on the alpha were fixed by the beta. It's like the 5th time I've had alpha access and made early access videos, and stuff that were problems on those alphas has always been fixed before the beta previously. So there was no reason for me to think that this year would be any different. So that's why I didn't give you an early warning, or part of why I didn't give you an early warning. The other part of why I didn't give you an early warning is because I don't think there's anything to warn you about. I'm having a nice time. If I were not a content creator, I would still buy this game and I would still be playing it and enjoying it. Case in point, my brother has almost as many hours on FM26 as I have. He bought the game with his own money because I used my freebie codes for giveaways and to give to me and Topher. So my poor old brother had to buy his own copy this year, and he's played it almost as much as I have. And he has absolutely no incentive to be playing it. He hasn't gone and got a refund. We haven't even spoken about it because we've both been busy this weekend. So I don't actually know his thoughts on the game, but I can see he's playing the thing. And I think I would be playing the thing too, because for me and the way I play the game, it kind of scratches most of my itches. Yes, there are still bugs. I am seeing bugs, but I haven't had a single crash. And in fact, I've been out all day today. I'm recording this Sunday night. If I flip over to this screen for a little bit of a potential spoiler, maybe I can't do that while I'm recording. Hold on. I already had it open in another instance of OBS. That's why we couldn't see it. But yeah, I left this running. I set this to continue simulating for my however many years in the future, ultimately 1,000 years in the future save before I went to bed last night. So this has been this has been simulating for like 18, 20 hours now. We've made it into 24:30. No crash. Still not crashed. And touch wood, I still haven't had a single crash in FM26. So for me, the bugs aren't as bad as people are making out the bugs were. I did have a couple of crashes on the alpha. I haven't had a single crash on the beta. So some of the stuff that was on the alpha obviously has been fixed. So people complain that I script some of my videos. I've got myself tied in a knot and can't remember the point I was making. Now, this is why I script my videos and don't just turn the camera on and start talking. But yeah, ultimately, I'm not feeling the hate for the game that a small section of the community are feeling. And I'm going to I've hammered this point on streams, on Twitter, and I'm going to keep hammering the point. I do think it is a small section of the community that really strongly hate and dislike this game, but they are the loudest, and they are the ones that are all over Reddit and tweet about Football Manager all the time. And I guess they're the hardest core of the hardcore, but they are a small subsection of the game. I've done a poll on Twitter. I've done a poll here on YouTube. Yes, I'm only polling my audience, but I would suggest by default, my audience is probably more hardcore than the actual overall Football Manager audience, because they subscribe and watch a Football Manager YouTuber. So they are super into the game. There are like 20 million players of FM24. There's 200,000 people subscribed to my YouTube channel. It's a tiny percentage, and I suspect that percentage leans pretty high towards the hardcore end of the scale. And I think the hardcore players are more likely to be angry than the casual players. And the point that I'm making is it's less than 20% of that hardcore, and I suspect of the overall player base, it's an even smaller percentage than that. And I would be really interested. It's obviously not something we'll ever actually get to see, but I'd be really interested if Sports Interactive ever released the numbers for how many people actually asked for a refund. I suspect it's a tiny percentage. I've had people in my comments be like, oh, when 30 or 40% of the people get refunds, it's just not going to happen. I would be flabbergasted if 5% of the people who've bought the game get a refund, because even those who aren't really enjoying it will still want to enjoy it and will force themselves to play more. So yeah, I'm not going to jump on the hate bandwagon, even though a lot of people seem to want me to. It's one of the reasons I did my experiment with my 2 videos at the weekend, because I just wanted to see how much the bandwagon kind of fires itself and hate is more visible and more popular on social media, and negative content always gets pushed out there. And it was kind of to be able to make the point now. And I know a lot of people didn't like me making those 2 videos. If you didn't like them, I apologize, but there was a purpose to it. And the purpose was this. I can now sit here and say to you that because hatred sells, negativity sells, twice as many people have seen the negative video as the positive video 2 days in. And I think that the reason I wanted to be able to throw that data in front of you is to kind of back up my point of you are more likely to see the negativity. Yes, it might feel like everyone hates the game and the negativity is everywhere, but you're more likely to see it because that's the content that gets pushed. It's the stuff that rises to the top of Reddit. It's the stuff that people get most emotionally attached to and therefore push out and share. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there are more people who dislike the game than like it. It just means you're more likely to see it because that's what social media will push in front of you. And that's what the experiment was. And I think it proved my point. Still hate the videos if you want to. Yeah, I realise I've talked quite a lot in this video and not really given you my actual thoughts on Football Manager 26 other than I quite like it. So I do quite like it. I'm not going to do a proper review until the game is out. I think I promised on stream the other day, I need a couple of 100 hours after full release to do a full review. And it's not something I've ever really done in the past, but I think it warrants it this year. So a couple of 100 hours probably puts us towards the end of November. So towards the end of November, I'll do a proper review where I will properly outline my thoughts a few 100 hours in of what do I like, what do I dislike, what would I change, and what do I think of the overall game. You'll get all that packaged together when it's fair to do it. But initial impressions, which is what everybody wants, and it's what all the vitriol online is based on, I think, and this could completely change depending on what happens at full release and depending on how I feel about it after a couple of 100 hours. But at the moment, my initial impression is I feel like they've made a game targeted at players who play the game like I do. Call them casuals if you want, call them basic players, simple players, call it dumbing down, call it whatever you call it. I can certainly see why the people who like to go into hyper detail on all of the data and know where things like data hubs are and the chalkboard or whatever it was that got removed and everyone got upset, and who constantly are using their in-game shouts. And if you like to rinse every tiny little squeeze of whatever it is out of every element of the game, I get that there's less for you to do that on and you might be upset about it. But for me, everything that I want and everything that I do is in there, and it's easier to get to and quicker and more user-friendly. And they've even added little quality of life improvements that help players like me, such as the instant result button, the search feature being much better than it's ever been in the past. So if there ever is anything I need to find, I can search for it and find it really quickly. The FMpedia, the tutorial, the introduction stuff is much better than it's been in the past. And obviously we can all see that the match engine itself is a massive leap forward. And I spend a lot of my time in matches. So I'm seeing prettier matches. The licensing stuff is awesome. I like all that being in there. I don't know that I'll even bother to mod the game at all this year. I might do a real name fix on those Italian or Brazilian clubs, but there's not really a lot else I need to do. I don't need every club badge for the Korean third division. I'll live without it. So I think there's a lot of quality of life improvements for people like me, for the casuals. Case in point, I've seen lots of people get very upset about not being able to save their team selection. I've played this game for over 30 years. I did not know until this weekend you could save your team selection. I still can't think of a circumstance where I would want to. And I think there are a lot of players who play the game like I do, and I think we are the ones who are quite happy with what we've been served up and don't really understand what everyone else is upset about, other than the fact that there are bugs. Obviously, we've had the same bugs, but we can see that they're going to be fixed. That thing that's already been fixed, where every time you hit continue, you went back into the team meeting. Obviously, I saw that. But again, I knew it would be fixed, and it already has been fixed. And there's obviously other little bits like that. The bugs, the stuff that obviously doesn't work, will be fixed. The UI decisions that everyone else is upset about, or the small percentage is upset about, the real hardcore, which obviously is going to feel like a larger percentage in the Football Manager community, which, this might be controversial, the FM community on Twitter, on YouTube, on Reddit does not represent anywhere near the full size of Football Manager gamers in general. It is the most hardcore of the hardcore. And they're the ones who are going to be hit hardest by the change. So it does feel like it's a swerve towards the casual, which if that's not how you play, yes, it will probably upset you. And I get why you're upset, and I get why it's not the game that you wanted. But at the same time, I also get and can see the other side, and hope you can come around to seeing the other side, that there are a lot of us out there who this has actually been quite positive, and we're actually having quite a good time with it. And I've had comments on my YouTube videos along the lines of, I can't believe you're just making normal videos and pretending like nothing's wrong. I'm not pretending like nothing's wrong. I'm having a nice time. I'm enjoying it. I'm allowed to enjoy it. Maybe you won't enjoy it this year. Maybe you'll never enjoy it again. Maybe you're not a Football Manager player anymore. Or maybe they'll swerve back in your direction next year, and I'll be making hate comments on your, but I won't. That's the thing. I've had 30 plus years of the game being far too complicated for me, and everyone laughing at me for using quick pick and delegating stuff to my assistant manager. I found a way to make a really complicated simple, a really complicated game simple. Maybe you can find a way to overcomplicate a really simple game. It's not that different, I don't think. But yeah, I don't know. I like I say, I don't want anyone to think, and I tried to put this out on Twitter, and I don't know if I phrased it better there or here. Like I say, this isn't planned, and I probably should have planned it and scripted it, but then everyone would have been like, stop reading off a script. Just because it's a script doesn't mean I didn't write the script. But some people, if it's scripted, feel like I'm not speaking the truth. So I've had to do this kind of off the cuff so you know it's me, which is mad, but 2025 things, I guess. Again, I've lost my train of thought. I don't know what I was saying. I'm getting old. I'm too old to do this stuff off the cuff. But yeah, I don't want anybody to think that I'm dismissing their concerns, because I'm not. I get that you're upset because the elements what you liked about the game are gone. I would be upset if they took quick pick away, if they took the tactical presets away, if they took delegation to staff away. I would be upset because I wouldn't enjoy the game as much as a result. So if you've now got this game that you love and I love, I wouldn't have played it for 30 plus years. I did the maths once, I've spent over 10% of my entire life, not my adult life, not my working life. I am taking sleep and everything into account based on the number of hours I've put into Football Manager over the last 15 years that it's been tracking in Steam. If you take that all the way back to when I played my first one, Championship Manager 2, and assume that it's roughly the same average only every year, and it was probably more when I was younger. I probably played it more when I was at school. But if you take those as the average and add up all those hours, it does mean that over 10% of my entire life has been spent playing Football Manager. And there's people telling me that I'm only making video. I'm only in this for the money. I don't care. I don't love the game. He doesn't even like Football Manager. I mean, what have you spent 10% of your life doing? Most people don't have something they've spent 10% of their life doing. I am an obsessive, autistic 43-year-old who has Football Manager as one of his special interests and will play it every day for the rest of my life, even if they never make another one, because I love it and I need it to function. So, the suggestion that I don't care is absolute poppycock. But yeah, I just wanted to get a video out there showing that I can hear you. I do see what you're saying, but almost a message to everybody else. It's not as bad as it might seem. You don't have to dislike the game just because you're seeing other people dislike the game online. You can make your own mind up. And if you're enjoying it, that is entirely valid too. And I think a lot of people are enjoying it. And hopefully those who aren't enjoying it will start to enjoy it when the bugs have gone, or start to enjoy it when they get used to the UI. And maybe some of them will never enjoy it again. Maybe they won't enjoy it until next year's version. In which case it's fine to have a year off if you don't enjoy this version. You don't have to play every one. You could go back and do 24 for another year. We've all done it for 2 years already. You could do another year on it. So yeah, I think we all just need to calm down a bit and dare I say trust the process? No, I'm not going to say trust the process, but yeah, fingers crossed. I certainly think there are a lot of really clear signs that the game is starting to move in the right direction. I think it's clear that Sports Interactive bit off more than they could chew with the move to Unity. And in an ideal world, they would take another year and it would come out more polished, more features, less bugs. But they don't have another year because they already took another year and they just can't afford to have 2 years off. So I guess we're kind of in a situation now of they release it now or we never get another one, because if they don't release this year, they're probably done. So they've got to release what they've got now, even though as much as I'm enjoying it, I can see it's not finished. But they've got to release it now, because if they don't, they won't get to finish it. Whereas at least this way, they'll get to finish it. And maybe in 2 years' time, we'll be talking about the best one they've ever made. And that's certainly what happened off the back of the Championship Manager 4 nonsense all those years ago. It was a mess. It was unfinished. It never really worked properly. And just a couple of years later, we had Football Manager 2005 and everyone was like, oh, okay, we're back. And I guess it's just history repeating itself. Once a generation, we have to go through this. It's just this time we've got Reddit and Twitter, and everyone has to either love something or hate something, and you can't have shades of grey. So it's harder this time, but I promise you it is the same as last time, and it will all be okay in the end. And I think I'm done. Proper review coming soon when I've played enough of the game to be able to give you a proper review. Feel free to continue sharing your thoughts down in the comments below. Any like personal attacks and hatred from this point on, I think, is just getting blocked. I've given people a little bit of leeway first weekend because they were upset and not thinking clearly and going on personal attacks. But I think we draw a line under that now. Any personal attacks from here on me or anyone else, and you're done, you're gone, go watch someone else. We don't need you here. We're all right. And let's just get on with enjoying this game, making fun content on this game, and yeah, let's have a nice time. And on that note, I need to start my stream, which you probably watched yesterday, and if you didn't, the VOD is on LOLLUJO too. LOLLUJO live. Go and watch it now.